All right, let's get started with this next one. Y'all are welcome to head over to the food and beverage side and continue that wonderful conversation about fixing workforce in America, please, or in Kansas City specifically. That would be helpful. All right, we're getting started with the third session night. So, the point of sessions, just to kind of reiterate what we try to do here, is how do you bring together, like, we don't want to do a life sciences night. We don't want to do a design night, because our whole point in this activity every week is to bring together perspectives and audiences that wouldn't otherwise have a chance to intersect and collide. And so one of the important factors in any innovation community, when you look at the most vibrant innovation communities around the world, is that influx of creative class, that influx of, that creative energy and so on. So I'm excited about our guest tonight, and to talk about some of the experiences he's had and some of the perspectives that he has on things like innovation and some of the work that he's been doing on social progress and how his views on humanity and how what he does impacts some of those types of things as well. And so I don't introduce guests. You guys all have heard this before. I'm terrible at that. So I'm going to have you introduce yourself. Tell us a little bit about who you are and what you're up to.
Okay. Well, first of all, it's a pleasure to be here. It's really fun to listen to the last conversation. I go by the name of The.WAV, aka Gregory. I don't know if I'm, skilled in this mic, but it's okay. Yeah, so we do a lot of things. That's my lady over there, and she's one of my inspirations and one of my mentors in a way, actually. We do a lot of things, though. I do music production for Facebook, aka Meta. They recently changed their name, as everyone might know, and we create like soundscapes. And right now, we're creating like an Afro music catalog of like royalty-free music that people can use in like advertisements and in their content without it being flagged by like the labels and stuff like that, because that's been like a big issue. So we're like building like this whole library, and we work with the AI department as well in developing like new technology or new like software, working on making it more intuitive and easier for artists and creatives to use. Outside of that, my wife and I, we do this experience called AfroHaus, which is an intimate concert experience. So we'll bring together between 50 and to 100 people, and we'll do like a intimate concert in like a cool and unique space. So, for example, we did something in like this garden in the middle of Los Angeles, like in the middle of all this like city infrastructure. There's this like magical garden, and we also did something in this like it was like a warehouse space, but it was like all wood. So you felt like you're inside this like playhouse, like this club playhouse, like almost like a tree house, but inside of a building. So that's just like a little bit of what I have been doing in these last few years.
So I want to go back a little bit then, like just before these last few years then. So the Wave.
Yeah.
My understanding is it's a music collaborative, right? It's a collaborative kind of set of artists and creative. You talked about supporting more creatives, and some of the collaborative work that you've done is part of the Wave and part of how that's set up. Is that right? Like, am I understanding that correctly?
So the Wave was it's been like alternating members and people who have been a part of it. Like when I first started, it was like myself and another DJ, and then I brought on like other artists and songwriters. And
so give me like a time per se. So like the 2013 time frame. Is this before that?
Okay, I'll give you the quick like story.
All right.
It's quite dramatic, honestly. But we're here for the drama, right? So my wife actually was my manager at first. So she started managing me in 2013 as a producer. Hey, what's up, man? And I was just making beats for different artists in New York City. And I was DJing, like I was just doing random things. Like I DJ'd something for Tyra Banks. I did something for Adrienne I don't even know her name anymore. But anyway, I was just doing like random things, and she was like, managing me. And then things got a little bit more serious and stuff like that. And then so the initial person that I started working with, he was a DJ, and we were supposed to do this show together. And there was like a misspelling on the flyer. I don't know, like if you're an artist or if you're a creative, like it's really important to get your credit and to be recognized.
It's your brand, man.
It's your brand. You know what I'm saying? So if your name's not on the flyer, it's like that's a big deal sometimes. Like that could be like a deal breaker almost. Like, so basically he got really upset that the name wasn't as it was supposed to be, and it was like out of our control. We weren't the people who were in charge of making the event. So you know what, I'm leaving. So then it was like back to just being me again. So the wave was just me. And then I started working with Kelly. She started managing me, and I started working with like other songwriters and stuff like that, because I've always been a collaborative person. And I was like, why don't you guys just join like this brand that I've started called The Wave or whatever? And because I was getting these different platforms, given to me, and I felt like I've always been a community kind of person. And I've always like been like, when you come from, a black community, especially, lower income, there's just this mentality where it's like, hey, we're going to make it together. Like, we all went through this struggle together. We all suffered through this madness. So we're all going to work together and make it. We're not going to leave each other behind. It's kind of like no man left behind kind of mentality. So I was like, we're all going to do this together. Why don't you just join me? And so these other two gentlemen joined me. One of them was like from the Caribbean. Another person was like Indonesian. And basically we were just creating together, but each of us was like an individual artist under this collective called The Wave. And then we went to Los Angeles and we started AfroHaus, which is the intimate concert experiences. And we started performing, like every time we would perform, we would kind of like perform together, because we would be writing together. And so we would just all be on the track, it would be kind of like this collaborative thing. So what ended up happening is like they kind of branded us as a group. They're like, this is a group called The Wave, or as the British call us, the WAV. And we really were just like, okay, like I guess we're a group now. And we got signed to Warner Brothers off of this song called Proposition. Check it out. It's just like everywhere. It's a gem. But it really blew up in the UK. And like this really big soccer player at the time, he was like, he played on the English national team. His name was Daniel Sturridge. Shout out Daniel Sturridge, my guy. But we went out to the UK and we made like an album, and we did like a mini tour. We, went to BBC. We went to, Capital One Extra. We were basically like on the radio, and we even did like Liverpool television, which is super random. It's like the equivalent of doing like Kansas City, PBS, like, or something like that. And it was lit. It was really fun. But what ended up happening is like, since we were never really meant to be a group, like we were all individual personalities, it became like this clash of like egos and stuff. And me being a Gemini, like I have like these two different sides, right? So I was chill for a while, and I was like cool with like, splitting everything, and I was cool with like, being this like quote unquote team player. But then I realized like the way that the music industry works is that like they try to divide and conquer. So they'll send in like the jackals, was what I like to call them, which are like infiltrators, like ops. And they come in and they try to, offer one person one deal, offer somebody another deal. And it was just like, there was a lot of situations getting handed to us. There was a lot of offers on the table, and it just kind of dissolved in like an explosion. And from there, like I actually like went through like a really like crazy mental health crisis, where it was like, I felt like everything that I had worked for like the last like 5-6 years had been like demolished. And being like a young African man, like coming from an African family, like you're not allowed to fail, like because so many sacrifices were made on your behalf, like to get here. I'm getting like emotional right now. Let me calm down. But I felt like I had failed, and everything like that. So I actually came to Kansas City and like gathered myself, collected my thoughts and my feelings, and took time to like really navigate what it meant to be, I think, just a human being. Because I could kind of forgotten that I was a human being for a moment. Like when you're chasing something so hard, you devote like you devote your like entire essence to that, and it's like you kind of forget yourself in a way. You kind of forget like your basic needs, and like, oh wow, I need to take myself to the movies, like I need some ice cream, like like I deserve love, like all these things, and like you forget about that. And so I was able to like give myself that actually and reconnect with my family, and just take time away from the industry. But then it was like I can't stay away from music, and I continued to create, and then I kind of like reemerged in, let's say, 2000, and I think like a little bit after, during and after COVID, I kind of reemerged from like a hiatus for about a year and a half, 2 years, and that's the story of The.WAV. So now it's just me again, but I'm taking applications.
Yeah. On the collaborative side.
Always,
yeah,
always.
It's once you're a community person, you're always a community person kind of thing, right?
I mean, what are we without our community? Like I think that every human being needs some kind of support system. Whether that's a significant other, whether that's a best friend, whether that's like an actual community or a tribe, like a church, or like this space, that this beautiful space that you've created. Definitely.
So, why Kansas City? So you have family here? Is that the
Yeah.
Okay, all right. I was reading about, I think, when you guys made the move to LA, and there was some interesting pieces in the article that I was reading about the focus on the African diaspora and the focus on, I think, your roots, and like how do you bring that through the music into the culture and help people make that connection. Talk a little bit about that.
Yeah.
I mean, in terms of like how you're delivering that part of the equation and what you do.
Yeah. So like, I've always been a natural proponent, of connecting the Black community in the United States with the African community. So it's like growing up as an African in the Black community here, I was like made fun of. They're like, "Oh, you're an African booty scratcher, like, you're dirty, like this and that." And it's like now everybody dresses like they're homeless, so it's like, what? But anyway, it's crazy. Like we went through this kind of I call it like I don't want to call it a crucifixion, but like it's just like that Christian background getting in my head. But it was like a trial, it was like a trial to be here and stuff like that. So I always felt like we don't have to be at odds with each other. I think the African community and the Black community, we can do a lot together. The Nigerian community is the richest Black community in America, and they have even surpassed like the Black Americans that are here. And I identify as a Black American, but also as an African, because I did grow up, for a large period of my life here. My dad's from here, and my mom's from Tanzania. So like I always got lumped in like with everybody else, whether it was Black people or if it was like Mexicans, I would get lumped in with them. So I was always felt part, like I always felt like I connected with marginalized groups. So I felt like we didn't have to be at odds with each other. I feel like the Black community, the African community, we have so much more in common than we would even realize. Like even down to our culture and our slang and the way that we like relate to one another in our communities, they really resemble one another. And I think that like now you start to hear the Afrobeats and is starting to like permeate the Black community and like the urban, centers here in the United States. Like, in the UK, it really had already taken off almost like 5 years ago even. So that's where we have, I would say I have my biggest listener base, and I'm about to go on tour to Germany at the end of this month.
I saw that. You're leaving soon, man.
Yeah.
You're heading out.
So like, funny enough, my dad is like German Swiss, so it's like I'm going back to my ancestors in a way. So I'm excited, but yeah, I've always felt like, it's important for the diaspora to remain connected. I think that how we lose is when we it's like divided we fall. It's like if Jamaicans see themselves as superior to Nigerians, and Nigerians see themselves superior to Black Americans, and like it's just that same struggle again. And I think that Afro House is a space and a community where we can actually highlight those parallels and those reflections, and create a safe space for us to create those relationships.
The thank you. The thing that stuck out in the article about that perspective for me, and I don't think it was a quote from you, I think it was one of the other folks that were involved in the move to LA. They talked about this idea, and this is something that I believe in, this idea that we'll all come together as a people. Like our evolution will end with us all coming together. And I always tell people, like, at the end of days, when this rock is too hot and we're all trying to figure out how we're going to like all survive, and there's only maybe a couple thousand of us left, right? Because everybody else has died off. We're not going to care what color the person, you know what I mean? We're not going to care what color the person next to us is, or what disability they have, or what sex they are. We're just going to be bonded together to try to survive, right? Because that will be back to the beginning. So why wait until the rock's too hot to live on? Why can't we start living like that today? Yeah. Right? That's why I always like try to talk about. And I think that was part of the message that was in that article. I was like, that touched me. That like I understand kind of that mentality of what you're thinking about, or how you're thinking about the world.
Totally.
So on the music side, I want to talk a little bit about your creative process, because I was watching some interviews recently, unrelated, before I even knew you were going to be here. I think there was a pretty cool John Mayer interview that's been on YouTube talking about his like the Ouija board concept that he uses for like getting words. Like he just starts.
Oh, wow. No way.
They call it Ouija boarding, and he talks about like he just starts throwing, like he starts just playing and he starts just throwing words out, like random words, and he starts thinking about whatever's on his mind and whatever he's doing, and that's how songs get created. Like, what's your creative process like? How does the innovation of music work for you specifically? I mean, don't give away any trade secrets.
That's a really amazing question. Thanks for that. Yeah, I mean, I don't have a Ouija board or anything like that. I haven't invested in that piece of equipment quite yet. They didn't have it at Garage Guitar Center or whatever. So, but like definitely my process is evolving. Like I had this game that I always played as a little child. It was called, my family liked to call it Juju game or whatever. And basically it's because, not to get too deep in it or whatever, but like, because you asked, it's like when they would come around, I would mask the actual sounds that I was making, because I was making some wild sounds. Like I didn't even know how I sounded. So I would just go like, and so they're like, this game is called Juju. So that's called Juju. So that's where it comes from. But essentially, I was in my mind like creating like masterpieces. Okay, I would watch like The Sound of Music, and then I would go create like the African version in my head. And I would like take two sticks, and it's crazy how the physical world interacts with like the spiritual world and like the creative world. So I would like go into nature, and I would get two sticks, and they had to be of equal length. Both sticks had to be about yay. And I would have both of them, one stick in this hand, one stick in this hand, and that signified to my subconscious and to my brain and to my imagination that this was a safe space, and this was time for me to like go all out in creating. And so I would just like go into that zone. And that's kind of how I've been creating up until recently, until like I would say like after like my mental health situation, I really like decided that I was gonna try new ways of approaching music. So like now I've been like playing on a keyboard, and like sometimes I'll sample something, sometimes I'll start with a melody, or sometimes it will just be like an ideal, like or a mood, I guess, that I'm trying to achieve. Like I want to feel like this, or it would be nice to feel like this. It would be nice to translate this emotion that I'm feeling into this particular signature or sound. And I've done a lot of work in creating soundscapes and stuff like that. So I'll watch like a script, or I'll read a script, and I'll create from that script. I'll try to create the accompanying sound. So if it's like a meditation, or if it's like a, you know, really soft spoken thing, and then I'll, you know, bring in the soft instruments, the pianos, the pads, you know, and then I'll bring like a bass and have like a riser swell up and just consume you into the abyss, you know. So that's kind of my creative process.
What you're describing, I saw something, I think it was in Palm Springs once, and I stumbled into a hotel and they were doing this, and I thought, this is the weirdest thing I've ever seen in my life. So I sat down and was like, participate. It was my first sound bath.
Oh, wow.
And I was
Okay.
just like, I sat there and I was like, what is this? And all these people are just like with their eyes closed in the room trying to meditate, but like this music's playing in their face. I was like, all right, I'm just going to try this out.
Yeah.
It's actually really cool. Well, then I've run into a couple places in Kansas City where they've been doing that. Some of the music. So I was listening to like your history on the internet, like of the music that you've made and some of the stuff you've done. Is pretty interesting, man. Like it's very interesting.
Okay.
It's very, it's
Thank you, man.
It's cool to see the progression, but it reminds me a lot of that. It does touch you. Like it does, like the sounds resonate like in your body in a different way. Like the way the sounds hit you.
Oh,
Thank you. It sounds intentional.
Yeah.
It sounds very intentional in terms of how you produce music, how you make music.
Yeah. So like, you know, I've spent a little bit of time, not, you know, not enough, but studying like the chakras and studying like the different like signatures that can impress upon the human mind and impress upon the human heart. And I've, you know, done some study. Oh, I didn't do the study, but I've read some studies. Sorry. I'm like a scientist now. Yeah. But I mean, you know, kind of
read it on the internet. Yeah, you're doing it. You're doing the work, right? They're researching your stuff now.
Well, wow, I'm done. Well, basically there's these studies that show that with people with dementia and Alzheimer's, when you put headphones on them and when you play a song, it serves as an anchor, and it brings people into a certain space, into a certain cognitive space where maybe certain memories that were forgotten or suppressed will come and there'll be like a resurgence of their mind and their creativity for that moment, especially while they're immersed in the sound. And that's like super cool that you went to the sound baths, because like I've experienced that too. And my wife does these awesome meditations and stuff like that. And it just like really heals. And the power of music and the power of sound is like one of the most underestimated things. I think that we're just starting to understand it. Like, and this is just the level one, you know. So yeah.
Yeah. Right. Like like literally you can smell and feel and remember whatever that song, like that emotional attachment from that period of time or that thing. So there's definitely that power to it. It's fascinating to me how you've embraced that and kind of the music that you produce and the music that you make. You've maybe referenced this a few times in the conversation, but I want to ask you directly and specifically, what's your favorite part of the music industry? Like, what's it about making music? Maybe less about the industry.
Okay.
That might be the opposite answer, but like about making music, what's your favorite part about making music?
Well, I'll answer both of those questions. I would say that my favorite part about the music industry is just the fact that you can make money. It's like really cool that, you know, somehow I'm sitting here creating soundscapes for, you know, Meta, and now I'm like basically making them a whole album of like Afro-inspired music because they need royalty-free music. And it's like there's all these random ways that music and sound has application in like our world. And it's even broader than just the music industry. So that's like really what's the most mind-blowing part. You know, I've you know, designed sounds that are like for exits, like, or when you get in the car and you hear that sound, doon 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 doon. Yeah, I've designed.
It sits in your head all day.
Yeah, I've done stuff like that. So, like, the other question was, what's my favorite part about making music? And I would say that my favorite part about making music is, it's kind of a deep question, actually. I would say connecting with the divine, you know, opening myself up as like a vessel or a channel for that creativity to pass through me. You know, lately I've been really intent upon like getting out of my own way and even detaching from my own story and allowing some new kind of ideas and stories and things to come through me, you know, if it's the will of God, you know. I believe in God. I believe in, spirituality. I believe in the universe, or whatever you want to call it. I mean, it just depends on what you connect to. Now people are like saying that Chat GPT is the new, like God, and they're trying to like worship it. They actually have those kind of people, like, and it's crazy. But I think, and I've used Chat GPT to create too, actually.
Well, Craig shouted him out as like it was actually a person in the previous panel. So I heard a shout out to Chat GPT. I thought it was kind of it was kind of awkward, but that's fine.
I mean, I'm in the space, and I'll just go ahead and talk about AI, because I've done some work with it.
I was going to ask you, like, what are these what are like the innovation trends you see in music right now that have you kind of like focused in on? It sounds like AI is maybe one of them.
Yeah. I mean, you see, like, they had a song that was the Drake featuring The Weeknd, and it was like an AI song, and it made like headlines. It was like national news. I was like, this is national news? Like, this is crazy. But they ended up having to take it down. And I just think it's a really interesting time. It's fascinating to see how people use the technology, and it's actually, I think that at the first thing that we see are the memes, we see the jokes, we see people like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But like, in the laboratories, in the dungeons, like there are people really figuring out how to use this technology to make our world better. Like they're saying that in a few years, like we'll go on Netflix and there'll be a movie that's like specially made for us. And I think that's really, really cool. And I think it's super possible. And I think that's kind of like what I'm starting to understand with music. It's like I've had things go viral on like, Instagram and TikTok, and it's like, not what I would have expected. It's like some little sound bite or a little clip. And I think that AI is just going to accelerate the music creation process and accelerate where we're going, which is just a more customized, more preferential kind of experience, where this is, when we go on, Spotify or listen to the radio, it's not like we're getting exactly what we want. We're getting what they want to give us. But now the technology is going to develop and advance to the point where we get what we need, You
mean recommended for me isn't really what I would want to listen to?
No, I don't know
what I want to listen to. So you what's it like as an artist for you? You just referenced it. Like you create something, and you put it out there, and then it goes viral, but not kind of maybe the way you had envisioned it when you made it. Like, what's that feeling like for you as an artist? Like, because it can't be terrible because it's like going viral, but on the other hand, you're like, wait a minute, this isn't the meaning that I had put it out there for. What's that like for you?
Yeah, it's interesting. So I have this song that I created for like this meta like library, and they were like, hey, can you make Japanese songs? And I was like, sure. Like, I don't know why I said yes to this, but ended up they're like, we need like, a Japanese hip hop song or a Japanese R&B song. And so I went on like Google and, wrote lyrics, and I got them translated into Japanese, and I like went and sung it, and I, submitted it to them. And like a couple months later, I look on the internet, and there's like hundreds and thousands of people who are like, who is this artist? Like, we need him here in Japan. Like, we need him here in Mexico. And the song's called I Will Kudasai. So it's like, I will kudasai, I will kudasai. It actually kind of sounds dope, but like, you know what I'm saying? This is actually kind of a vibe, and they took it and they ripped it and they stole it from Facebook. And they like uploaded all these versions on like SoundCloud and YouTube, and like there's like thousands and thousands of views on these videos, and nothing that I like actually tried to market myself ever got that much organic reach. And it was like, I'm not going to be mad about it. Like you said, like, I'm not going to be like, oh no. But it kind of like makes me think like, do I need to be a Japanese artist? Like, I don't know.
I've missed my calling. Yeah. Like that goes back to your favorite part of the industry is that you can make money. So maybe there's a lot of money to be made as a Japanese artist.
Japan, look, I'm coming eventually.
So the WAV, the WAV, I don't know how they say it in Japan, but We can figure it out.
Probably would they have their own cool way of saying it.
Yeah, we
probably.
can figure it out for sure. So what's your least favorite part about, let's start with the industry. Like, what's your least favorite part about the music industry?
I think that's a really great question as well. I think that my least favorite part about the music industry is the way that relationships just are just so quickly discarded, and the way that people are quickly thrown to the side and canceled. And I think there can be a lot more compassion for one another, especially in the artist community. I think that we're pitted against each other for economic reasons and not for like social and spiritual reasons and creative reasons. Like there's no one thing that I really am enjoying about the Afrobeats kind of evolution and movement is that the African community, like they see it as we're working as individual artists so that this genre rises, so that our country rises, so that this sound like, progresses. What I don't like to see and what hurts me is like when artists will fight with each other or diminish one another, especially in public spaces. Especially I don't like to see black artists diminishing one another in public spaces, because I think that we can rise so much more together. I think that we can make so much more of an impact when we're united, and that hurts, and it hurts that the people who I started out in the industry with are no longer people who I'm friends with anymore. But like that's not a unique story. That's like kind of how it goes, and that's the culture. And I'm hoping that as time goes on, we can be more compassionate with one another, and we can be more understanding. And that's an emotion and something that I want to engender and foster in the AfroHouse community. Like this is not a competitive community. This is a collaborative community. Like we're here to work together, and we're here to have fun, and we're here to rise economically, and so.
Well, I got to process that for a minute, because I have the same feeling, and I know a lot of other people who have the same feeling about the spaces that they're in. That it seems like you get pitted against each other by outside forces, and you end up and I think there was even a reference in the last panel about we're all after the same pool of money, or we're all like it's this scarcity mindset versus this abundance mindset. Actually, it was the same article I was reading. It was like this idea that this is we lose track because there's all this news coverage every day. There was another shooting. I don't know if you guys saw it today.
God bless.
Yeah, but we live in the safest period in humanity right now. Like this, like it's hard for us to remember that as a human being, you are living in the safest period in all of our existence right now.
Right.
But we lose sight of that, right? We forget that. So I love kind of that perspective that you have, and how you talk about that. Your least favorite part about making music, right?
Oh, okay. The work.
Okay.
Just like, I mean, it would be so nice if you could just imagine an idea, and everything that you imagined in your head could just
every entrepreneur ever,
right? Exactly.
Yeah.
It would be so nice, like if I could just. And there's this mentality in LA, like I don't know if any of you have lived in LA. There's this mentality where it's like I'm just gonna manifest it, like it's like okay, but like you still have to pay rent, and you're still gonna have to eat tomorrow. Like I'm just gonna manifest rent, like don't worry about it. Yeah. And it's like I wish that I could just manifest rent. Like honestly, I wish that I could just manifest.
Man, yeah.
I wish I could manifest my masterpieces, but it takes a lot of work. And I think that the number one thing that's exciting, about AI is that it cuts out. It can be a tool that cuts out a lot of that work, and it can help you get to your destination as a creative faster. So I'm not mad at that, and I am mad at the work for sure.
Yeah, no, I feel you on that, and the manifesting thing I totally relate to. I want to manifest 100 more people in the room every Wednesday. So
yeah.
Who are the innovators that you look to in your industry? Like, who are the people that you see that are like driving, maybe whether it's your genre or whether it's the industry overall, that you see as like the ones who are like the trailblazers for you right now, or even the inspirations? I guess it doesn't have to be the innovators.
Okay. What's interesting is like a lot of my inspirations aren't necessarily from the music world. Like I'm definitely inspired by Nelson Mandela, Enoch Olinga, which is like a Baha'i like superstar kind of hero, like Gandhi, people who have done a lot to like unite others and try to bring together different civilizations. Because my mom is from Tanzania, my dad is from Kansas City, so like I've always witnessed this clash of civilizations, and I've always wanted and tried to see a way through that, a peaceful way through that. In the music industry, I would say I'm a big fan of I'm not trying to give anybody free promo, but let me think.
It won't get back to them, probably, would be my guess.
I would have to say, wow, this is hard for me. I would have to say, what is this artist? It's a Nigerian artist. It's not. Oh, I definitely love Burna Boy. Shout out Burna Boy. Shout out Wizkid. I was in the studio with Wizkid when I was in LA. You got an opportunity to meet him, be with him for a while. Very cool dude. It's a new artist. He has like a lot of vocals. He takes a lot of vocals. I love Rema too, but like we're just shouting random names. Kanye West. I love Kanye West.
What?
Well, I mean, I don't love what Kanye West does all the time, but I think initially he was a big inspiration for me. I felt like he kind of spoke truth to power in a way that I felt, not everybody in that generation did, and I thought that was cool. But I'm by no means gonna stand and defend him. But there's another artist, and I cannot believe that I'm blanking right now. But
it'll come to you. It'll come to you. So, but so this idea of separating artists from the creation of their art, separating the person. Like, I mean, I think as a society we've had to learn that the art that is created, oftentimes we don't have to like stand behind the person that creates the art to appreciate the art, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I agree with that.
And I think as a overall society, a lot of us, I mean, this goes back. It was funny. You talked about like how people are worried about AI. Well, I mean, I'm sure when the electric guitar came around, a lot of people were like, "What the hell? Like,
right.
You're gonna ruin music forever."
Right.
But I think the same thing with society and having to deal with artists. I think Michael Jackson was one of the first times where people like had to grasp with the idea of like this person and this art. Like, how do I associate these things together? I think Elvis Presley was one of those people early on where people were like, whoa, like
right.
the hip thing, like stop. Like, but the music, like I'll listen to it all day long, right? It's like, so how do you separate the person and the music and so on? For you, like, you were talking about your identity and the mental health challenges and some of those types of things. I've gone through that too. I was 24 years in a job, or not a single job, but like in a company. And when I left, I had this like identity crisis, like that.
Wow.
Like who I was like attached to my badge and the work that I was doing, and I had to separate it. Do you find yourself getting like the identity of your art and you as a person? Is that kind of part of the struggle that you were going through previously, or?
Yeah. I think that like for me, if something's going on in my life and like for example, I hate this. It's like when me and Kelly are like arguing, or if like we're in like a fight or something like that. It's like hard for me to access certain parts. I mean, I shouldn't even say this because now she might know.
Yeah, she's sitting right there. Yeah.
Oh man, you know what? Anyway, you know what? You're gonna find out anyway.
Because she's sitting right there. Yeah.
But it's like hard for me to access this certain love box within me. It's like somehow this emotion has been compromised, and now my creative process is being like stifled. Don't make that face. Don't make that face. I swear to God. Nah, but like, so it's like. There's like it's hard to separate for me like the music from like what I'm going through, or the music from my life experience. I know there's a lot of like different ways of creating. Some people write stories that are made up. Some people write stories that are of their friends or not theirs. for me, I like to write about my experiences and my kind of like perspective, but I also like to come from an objective point of view. You know, sometimes I'm just like, you know what, let me just sit up here for a second and just like, this is me, and I'm looking down, or I'm looking up, or this is, you know. So yeah, I mean, I don't listen to R. Kelly anymore though, and
everybody's got their Kanye, their R. Kelly, everybody's got their one that they can't listen to anymore because of the person, right? Because of the thing. Yeah, that whole thing, like if I'm not gonna give a shout out to ChatGPT like Craig did. However, if ChatGPT was writing all the lyrics to all our songs, it'd be very boring shit because it's all about expression, right? It's all about like it's a form of story. It's like in history, it's been a form of storytelling.
yeah, totally.
And so it has to have that connection. So I hope you don't lose that because it seems like pretty powerful for you, like in some of the things that you produce and so on. Besides AI, what are the other like trends or innovations that you see? Whether it's music or whether it's maybe things that are happening on the African continent that you're excited about in terms of like progressions of technology or industries or some of those types of things. What are those trends or things that you're seeing right now?
Okay. So, that's an interesting question. I feel like it's a good question though.
Maybe one I should have given you beforehand.
So like, are you asking like what are some trends or like technologies or things that I see?
Like the things that like you're thinking like, oh, I might have to like play around with that, right?
Okay.
I see this like trend in a technology that's starting to impact it besides AI or whatever.
Okay, got you. Well, there's always like new software and stuff coming out. Like, I use this thing called Arcade and Splice. So I actually work with Splice. I like produce a lot of the African packs and like sound libraries. So these are like royalty free, which is crazy. It's crazy. This is royalty-free sounds that you could download it, copyright it, and make $1 million off of it. And people have done that. So I would check it out. If there's any creatives in here, check out Splice. It's an amazing company, and it has all kinds of sounds. So it has like atmospheric sounds where it comes down to like, you're in the middle of a bus depot or you're in the middle of Grand Central Station in New York, and it's just like those atmospheric sounds, to like legitimate like guitars and vocals and acapellas and things like that. You can compose these, royalty-free compositions and use them for anything that you want. And that is a technology and a tool that I think is essential for any creative. And I just so happen to be blessed to be working with them, and they're a really, really, really dope company. Shout out my boy John Smith. You don't know the vibes. And then there's like Ableton, and there's like which is like a production software. I started out with the Machine, which is like this you know what I'm saying? It's like an MPC. Like it has like it's like a giant box, and it has these little pads on it, and you just start smashing on it. Yep, exactly. And it's a really fun tool. As far as the future, I mean, it's hard to imagine. It's hard to really predict where this stuff is going. I just recently bought something. It's called Vocella, the doubler, and came from Europe. And it's like a microphone, just like this. But when you actually sing into it, it triggers like whatever instrument you want it to trigger. So like, let's say I hook up my voice to a string or a quartet or let's say piano. When I go like this, the piano is gonna like play those chords or those exact notes. And so my voice is actually the MIDI controller that controls these sounds. And like what I'd like to do is I like to put it on the organ. It's like this beautiful church organ, and the sounds and the textures and the melodies and the harmonies that I'm able to create are just haunting. They're like mind-blowing, and I haven't like explored that tool as much as I want to, because I just end up like opening my computer and just click, 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 click. But I'm trying to start to implement those tools into my creative process.
So you're going on tour soon.
Yeah.
When was the last time you were on tour?
So 2019. So the last time I was on tour was in the UK, and we did like Manchester, Liverpool, London, and a couple other cities. And that's when we were like in the group setting. But since like everything has kind of changed, so it's just me going over this time. But we're gonna do it even bigger, you know. And I say we because I'm always with the team, you know. So it's like it might look like it's just me, you know, or it might look, you know, for all of your favorite artists, it might just look like it's just them, or they might claim like I did this on myself, you know, I did it on my own, you know what I'm saying? Like nobody helped me. Like no, like there's
10 people standing behind me.
exactly.
Yeah.
So like I have a team that supports me and helps me and book me this tour and is gonna be accompanying me and stuff like that. And I feel very, very blessed because I didn't always have a team. And you know, if you're a creative and if you're an artist and if you're an entrepreneur, you know, even if you're just a mother, like you need a team, like you need a village. And I think that community is probably the biggest and one of the most important pillars of my career is that community, the tribe, the team, and like really kind of like humbling myself to my team, to my community, and just letting them know like I'm here to serve you, I'm here to perform for you, I'm here to make money and put money on the table for your families, you know, and that motivates me to take everything really seriously and to like operate as a professional, you know, like I got the gold grills in, you know, sometimes I wear a lot of jewelry and I start to feel, you know, like, hey, you know what I'm saying? But it's not really like that. It's like this humble posture of learning because we're all in this learning process together. No one knows what they're doing, you know, so I'm kind of rambling.
Where's that sense of community come from for you? Like, what do you think is that root for you? Is this something from your youth, from your parents? Like, where does this strong sense of what you do being about community, where does that come from for you?
So I have 8 brothers and sisters, and so I've always been like smothered by community, but in a good way. Sometimes it can feel like a lot, you know, especially if you come from like an African family. They can be pretty strict and they can be on your head. But I also came from the Baha'i community, which is it's like a spiritual community. We have like a community here in Iran. Why did I say Iran? We're in America. Sorry. But we have a community here, and the core tenets are just progressive revelation. So we believe in all like the prophets of God. Like we believe they came in order in a specific order, and they all gave different chapters of this book that is like the divine learning and teaching that we got. So that community, you know, that instilled those kind of values in me and always, you know, helped me to understand like the value. And my mom is an African woman, so she's like in the village at all times. She's like super community oriented, so that's where I think it would come from.
I'm a PK, preacher's kid. And,
Okay.
Everybody always, it's amazing. I tell people it was my mother, not my father. Like I'm a PK, my mother was a minister. And so
wow.
she always instilled in us that your relationship with God is personal, but church is about community. Like church was always community. That was always what it was about, what it should be focused on. So I appreciate that that's where you get that sense.
Yeah.
I understand that.
That's a really dope way of explaining it too. Like, I love that. Like,
I mean,
church is
her thing, like, this was me asking her a bunch of questions as this, like, disenchanted teenager who was, you know, going down bad paths of, like, you know, why does God do this and that and this to the other? And she would, like, well, look, you know, the church should never tell you how to live your life. That's not the role of a church. Like, a church should not, as an institution or an organization, should not do that. It should instill in you a sense of community and a sense of belonging and a sense of support for those next to you and those around you. Your dealings with God are personal.
Yeah.
Like you need to ask those questions, you know, to your divine being and get your answers and live with your answers in a personal way. So
That's dope.
What excites you about going on tour, man? Like, what are you most hyped about coming up here? Like, so it's a month, right? You're going to be in Germany in a month on tour.
Yeah.
Cologne, is that the first one? Did I see that right?
Yes. So I'm really excited. Like, this is gonna be my first time in Germany. Like I said, like some of my ancestors might pop up, might try to claim me. I don't know. Hopefully, right? And yeah, like for me, this is just an opportunity for me to like learn a little German and just share my music with a new audience. It's, like, it's hard for me to leave, especially leave my beautiful wife and, my kids. But, once they get a little bit older, I'm gonna take them with me and, so they can experience it. And I'm probably gonna, send some postcards back too, so.
Yeah, we'll give you our address.
I was gonna ask.
Yeah, you can send us one too. That'd be cool.
I want to send you a postcard. I'm gonna be drinking a beer, wearing like Dutch braids.
Fantastic. Hey man, thanks for coming and sharing your story with us.
Thank
I
you
really
so
appreciate it. Really appreciate hearing your perspective and
Thank you, bro.
and hearing your history and all. So thank you.
It was such a pleasure to be here. Thank you guys so much.